Hello and welcome back to the Bahamas, the location for this year's grueling contest to find the world's strongest man of 1995. The fifth and final heat is about to get underway here on New Providence Island, close to the Bahamian capital, Nassau. It looks set to be an exciting contest, and in half an hour's time, we'll know the names of all 10 competitors who are through to next week's final. Among those who've already qualified are the Briton, Gary Taylor, the defending champion, Magnus for Magnusson from Iceland, and the 29-stone Samoan, Joe Onosai. The four men in this next heat are all new to the competition. They include the 6'10" Australian, Nathan Jones, and a champion arm wrestler, Magnus Samuelsson from Sweden. Here with more details about the competitors and the competition is Paul Dickinson.
A last chance to see who can qualify along with the 8 men who've got to the final already. The road to the final, exactly the same as it's been in the past. 4 men taking part in 4 different events, scoring 4 points maximum for a victory in each event, 3 points for second and so on. Until eventually 2 men will emerge at the top of the points table and they will make up a full complement of 10 finalists. Well, because all the men here are making their debut in the competition, we could see the emergence of a new strongman superstar. Let's meet them all now, starting with that giant Australian, Nathan Jones.
His nickname is Mega Man, and it's easy to see why. 2 meters 12 tall and a physique that looks as though it's been carved out of granite. Phil Martin from the United States is well known as a Highland Games competitor of some talent. He's also the heaviest man in this week's heat. Torvi Olafsson is a shade lighter at 160 kilos, and he's the latest sensation to come off the Icelandic strongman production line. Finally, Magnus Samuelsson from Sweden. His claim to fame is that of a former European arm wrestling champion, but he's never contested anything like this before.
The first show of strength takes place at the ancient Fort Montague on the eastern side of the island, where crowds have gathered under an angry-looking sky, the remains of Tropical Storm Opal. The first event in this heat is called the arm-over-arm pull. Basically, the competitors have to pull these 4 cars from a stationary position. Now, it may look as if all the strength needs to come from their arms, but in fact, the back and legs play an equally important part. And it's not going to prove easy. The cars, complete with 1 passenger in each, have to be pulled over a 25-metre course.
Which event are you looking forward to most?
Probably this one. This is probably one of my best events, and I'd like to try the arm wrestling. I've never done it before. I'm actually going against the European arm wrestling champion, so that'll be a nice challenge, and I like a challenge.
My problem is that I'm not trying to stay too heavy before, because I was competing a lot in arm wrestle, and was on which weight categories there. So now I just started to train the legs real hard, but they are stronger than they look.
It's quite some time since an American has won World's Strongest Man. Can you go that far?
Well, I hope so. There's quite a few events, and I think the key is staying healthy through them and surviving.
Welcome to World's Strongest Man. Are you a little nervous before the competition?
Yeah, my stomach it hurt, but it's coming now. It's getting better.
It won't just be stomachs that'll be hurting in a few moments' time. This event is really going to test the whole body to the limit. And the first to try and shift 2.5 tons is the Swede Magnus Samuelsson, who you just heard say his legs are stronger than they look. And for his sake, I hope they are, because shifting those cars as fast as possible is an awesome task. Well, straight away, his girlfriend, Kristen, absolutely shrieking at Magnus. And it seems to have done the trick. He's got a good rhythm going already. Torvi and Phil there getting a taste of what's to come. And compared to those 2 25-stone giants, Magnus is almost on the slim side. He's about 40 kilos lighter, but look at this. He's really putting his arms, legs and back into this one. Those cars creeping closer and closer. Samuelsson, a labouring farmer. He's used to lots of physical work. Now the front of that car must go over the line. Just one more pull. 56.95 seconds. What a great start. Well done, that man, says Kristen. Torvi Olafsson now, and what an act to follow. Well, you've already seen his fellow Icelander, Magnus Ver Magnusson, the reigning world's strongest man in week one, and he's safely through to the final. So Torvi has a lot to live up to. It's hard to imagine the sort of weight those cars and passengers represent. It's at least as much as a double-decker bus. Well, Torvi not using the long pull of the back and legs as much as Magnus did, relying more on just the arms and the shoulders. Now then, what on earth is going on? Referee Doug Edmonds is off down the course, and I don't believe it, the rope has broken. Olafsson looking less than pleased. What on earth is going to happen now? There's Nathan Jones. He doesn't look too bothered, but look at that. Referee Doug Edmonds negotiating something with Torvi. We'll have to wait and see what happens. But here's Phil Martin of the United States striding out. He's going to be hoping that the same fate doesn't halt his progress so dramatically. Martin is a very solid-looking competitor. His huge body weight on that initial pull has got to be an advantage. It's still, of course, Samuelsson's time of 56.95 seconds to beat. Well, Phil Martin's hands are really going to be burning on that rope. He doesn't seem to be pulling as much with the legs and especially the back as the Swede did. His grip is actually slipping just a little bit now. He's still got some way to go. This is one of those moments which is like banging your head against a brick wall. It's going to be wonderful when it stops. And it looks as though he's going to go over Samuelsson's time, creeping towards 56 seconds. And he's still got about 5 meters to go. Now, come on, Phil. He's had enough. His first test is over. Lots of effort, but he's going to be disappointed with the result. So the judges will have to measure how far he's pulled the cars. Nathan Jones next, and the Australian looking very mean and moody indeed. Incidentally, Torvi Olafsson has been told he can go again. He's going to be a very tired man, but there's the man who's still in the lead.
Ready! Take the straight!
So Nathan Jones now, his first exploit in World's Strongest Man, really getting stuck in straight away. He's absolutely massive, this guy. His arms are bigger than most people's legs, and he's certainly putting them to good use. Approaching 50 seconds. I don't think he's going to beat Samuelsson's time. The best he can hope for now is second place, if he can complete the course. And that really does show you how good Samuelsson's time was. He's working the arms like crazy. Now he's beginning to work the back and the legs. It's very slow progress. And the giant Australian really looks as though he's lost the rhythm. That's where Magnus was really good. The crowd are urging him to finish. This is very painful. One more pull should do it. 1 minute 27.42. That's over 30 seconds slower than Samuelsson's time. A little bit of calm before the storm. Torvi Olafsson, certainly the unluckiest guy around, trying once again to pull 2.5 tons of steel.
Ready!
The big question now is how much did that first attempt take out of Torvi? Samuelsson really against the form book, but still the surprise leader. Olafsson doing a good job once again with what I think is the most efficient technique, the long pull supported by the back and the legs. But I'll tell you what, endurance on these big guys doesn't really go together. He's obviously slowing down now. This looks agony for Olafsson. What's he doing now? Well, I'll tell you what, I thought he was going to stop. If he leans back into it, this may work. Surely he can't go on. Well done, says Andy Anderson, who is just feeding the rope for him. Perhaps somebody ought to check him, because remember, he's done this first test twice. Andy just helping him up there. And there's one of the medical staff, and Torvi's clutching his chest. I hope he's okay.
Despite obvious problems, Torvi Olafsson emerges from that event in third place. The Australian Mega Man is second, but it's the slender Swede Magnus Samuelsson who's first.
Magnus, congratulations, but I think you're a little bit surprised.
Yeah, I'm very surprised because I never competed in a big competition like this before. So I didn't know if I was maybe half as strong or if we were equal. I never had anybody to compare against.
Well, Magnus may be happy, but a heart monitor's required for Torby Olafsson, who really seemed to suffer during that last contest and is now having problems with his breathing. For the second challenge, we move into the centre of Nassau. Its harbour is a popular destination for cruise ships, which play an important part in boosting the island's top industry, tourism. Event 2 will be played out, though, without Torby.
What did the doctor say to you?
He said that the problem is to get the blood pressure down. It was like 180 for 1.5 hours. So it's not normal to be like this. So it's very hard for the heart. Also, I got the pain in my breast, and he wants me to quit. No more.
You must be very disappointed.
I am very, because this was just mistakes. Somebody else's mistakes.
So Torby must sit and watch as his colleagues prepare to do battle at arm wrestling.
Obviously, there's a lot of technique involved, and although I'm strong, I'm no arm wrestler. So I think the key, once again, is survival.
What does it take to be a good arm wrestler?
It takes big hands, and you have to be strong in the whole arm. And also you have to be in arm wrestling, so you get a good technique.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how Nathan and Phil fare in the technique stakes, but I can tell you they both have got incredibly strong arms. Dougie Edmonds presiding. It's the best of 3. Oh my goodness. I don't think Phil Martin knew what hit him there. I once saw Jeff Capes, Britain's former world's strongest man, winning an arm wrestling competition just like this. It takes some real power to do that. Samuelsson, the most intense spectator, he goes up against Nathan next. So here we go again. The same result again, and Martin is totally outclassed.
That was so fast. Were you really psyched up for that?
Yeah, I was psyched up all right, but I'm very strong.
Now you're going up against the former European champion. You know that he's strong.
Well, this is his specialty, you know, so this would be a nice challenge. I like a challenge.
You'd like to come away with 4 points?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He won't win this easy.
He probably knows that now. Samuelsson coming into the arena for the first time in this round-robin competition. Nathan Jones back in for the second time after that devastating win against Phil Martin. You can see the difference in their size. Magnus, almost a skinny young kid next to Nathan Jones. Oh, Magnus using his whole body to try and move the Australian. He's twisting Nathan's wrist over. This is unbelievable from Magnus. Jones can hardly believe he's lost. He looks dazed. Magnus was superb, and Kristen is ecstatic. Well, goodness knows what she thinks. Nathan, 1 minute invincible. The next made to look quite ordinary by a man much smaller than he is. It does show that experience in arm wrestling is important. This is so intense from both men. Magnus turning that wrist over again. Oh my goodness, Nathan is down. Oh, this is terrible. I don't know what has happened. The doctor's very quick to attend. No diagnosis yet, of course.
Magnus, what happened?
It's probably broken his arm or a tendon or something. It's hard to say, but something is wrong with his arm. But I feel terrible that I have injured him. I'm very sorry.
Magnus just saying to Nathan he was the strongest man he'd ever come up against. There aren't many people around here that will ever forget the pain that came across Nathan's face at the end of that contest, and Phil Martin there. He'll take no further part in this event, and who can blame him? The arm wrestling, though, coming to an end in the worst possible way, and it looks as though we're down to just 2 men with 2 events to go.
Well, a pretty disastrous event all round. It's the former European arm wrestling champion Magnus Samuelsson who wins, though his success has been soured by what's happened.
Discussion will continue for some time. The news from the hospital is unfortunately that Nathan Jones has broken his arm. And Phil Martin said at the beginning of the programme that this could be the survival of the fittest. How right he was. Samuelsson and the American now guaranteed a place in the final.
The Bahamas has no shortage of millionaires, and on Paradise Island, this is where they head, to the luxurious Ocean Club. The Georgian-style mansion is an elegant hotel, surrounded by 35 acres of terraced garden. Vast amounts of money aren't hard to find here, and the island's many casinos prove a popular pastime with the tourists. Cash aside, though, Torvi Olafsson's had some good news.
I went to the hospital last night and have a check with a specialist, heart specialist, and he said to me that was not the heart, it's a muscular in the chest.
Excellent news for Torvi, but frustration as well. The contest continues now, and this 15-kilogram barrel must be thrown over the wall for the greatest height.
This is an event, Phil, that definitely suits you, isn't it?
Yes. I'm currently leading the world in the Scottish weight for height, which is a 56-pound weight, although it's thrown with one hand. This is a little different. It's definitely lighter, but I can't quite get it in between my legs like I'd like to, but I feel like I'm going to have a pretty good go, and I need it at this point because even though 2 competitors have fallen out, I've yet to really prove myself, I think. So I would like to have an event to give me a little confidence to go into the finals.
You must have thought a lot about it after yesterday. What went through your mind?
I've been arm wrestling a lot for the latest 5-6 years, and I never broke anybody's arm before. I know someday it might happen. Sorry for Nathan, but there's nothing I can do about it. The only thing I can do now is compete.
And that's exactly what he and Phil must do, according to the judges, to arrive in the final, having taken part in as many events as the rest of the qualifiers. So here we go with 550, and it was way, way over. A gentle opener, and it was easy. Magnus watching and learning all the time. This, the same height, just over 18 feet. Big long swing, and there it goes. That was an even better effort than Phil Martin. Dougie Edmonds just checking the wall on its way up to 5.75 meters now for Phil Martin. And if any of you are off down to the pub later, please don't try this. So Phil there, just one swing, and he gets it. Looking nice and relaxed. Magnus next. There's a few shockwaves still surrounding events yesterday, but this is a much more laid-back atmosphere. And certainly Magnus Samuelsson turning out to be a very intense competitor in everything he does. There's lots of talent wrapped up in a superb physique. Ooh, only just. Tristan willing it over the wall.
Phil, I think you've probably unofficially broken the world record about 3 or 4 times already, but it's going up to 6 meters. Can you do it?
Oh, yeah. I feel like I have probably another 1.5 meters besides this, I think.
This is a big strength for you, isn't it?
Yeah, I am a Highland athlete, and we do throw quite a bit, so I feel comfortable here. It's kind of hard because you can't get too fired up because Highland athletes have to be kind of calm so that you don't make a mistake.
Good luck.
Thanks.
He's absolutely right. If you get too tense with this sort of event, the technique deserts you. The wall getting higher and higher, so now there's no margin for error whatsoever. Oh, and Dave Webster, one of our judges, just announcing that it's 6 meters for another world record. Just getting rid of the excess sand. I'm not sure a couple of grains of sand would make that much difference to this guy. And here we go. Oh, it was easy. One of his best yet. And we get the biggest smile yet as well. In view of the fact Magnus has never done this event before today, he's done pretty well.
Well, can I call my height next?
And Phil trying to figure out his next move. It's level pegging all the way at the moment. 2 attempts are allowed at each height, but Magnus needs this one on his first to stay with Phil. Only just, it just rolled over. And Phil says, back to the drawing board. What now? 620 perhaps.
650.
650, that is a massive increase.
Magnus, I thought you said you couldn't do this. You've just equalled the world record.
I'm a fast learner, maybe.
He certainly is. Phil has been taking part in these sort of events for years now in Highland Games, but the nearest Magnus has ever been to something like this is back on his farm chucking hay bales around. Now, a big swing from Phil. Oh, that's his first failure. So it's down to Magnus. He really could take a big advantage here if he gets it at the first attempt. Unusual physique as Magnus. It's almost as though he's only done half of the Charles Atlas course. His legs are quite thin compared to the big muscles of his chest and shoulders, and of course his very powerful arms. The wall well over 20 feet now. Oh, it nearly crept over just like the last one. So Phil relieved, and he goes again. And Magnus just asking Kristen what went wrong this time, and Phil Martin goes straight in. Oh, not this time, and just to prove he can move fast when he wants to, getting out of the way of that barrel. So Magnus is back, and this one now to win his 3rd event in a row. 99% of the time, this fella is very quiet, calm and relaxed. But put a physical challenge in his way, he turns into a competitive animal. That barrel, it's not that heavy, but it's awkward to swing and throw. Oh, yes! What a wonderful result for Samuelsson. And Phil says, well done. I wonder what would happen if he did take up Highland Games.
Against all expectation, the Swede Magnus Samuelsson has beaten world record holder Phil Martin from the USA to take yet another first place. Congratulated by his proud girlfriend Kristen, it seems there's no stopping him.
Magnus, congratulations. That was a fantastic performance. Now, you've done 3 events.
Yeah.
And you're first world's strongest man, and you've not been beaten yet. How does that make you feel?
Yeah, I'm surprised and happy, and of course, very pleased. Everything has gone really good for me so far.
1 event to go, then you're in the final. Have you had any thoughts about that yet?
No, I'm just kind of, you know, I'm happy I haven't got an injury. Survival once again. And as when the finals start, all this is wiped out and it's new events, and it doesn't matter.
Again, the big American hits the nail on the head. But what about the performances of the Swede? They've been gutsy, full of passion, and of course, just that once, full of drama.
Nathan, the end to the arm wrestling competition came in such a dramatic fashion. What do you remember about it?
I remember hearing the break in my arm. Then I felt all this pain. And I'm looking at my arm, I couldn't believe it broke. The doctor said it was a spiral fracture. I don't know the name of this bone here, but it's a spiral fracture through here.
And how long do you think you're going to be out for as a result of the injury?
Well, the doctor said 6 weeks, which isn't too bad.
I think what a lot of people are finding it very difficult to understand is there you're sitting there with arms like tree trunks, but the forces required to have actually broken your arm must have been fantastic.
Well, they were telling me, and even Magnus told me himself, it was my own force that broke my own arm.
Do you think Australia might have a world's strongest man one of these days?
I think next year will be my year. I think I'll be coming back another 20 kilos heavier and a hell of a lot stronger and a lot faster, and I'll be very hard to stop.
Back down on the beach, preparations are being made for the 4th and final event, the slot machine carry. The 2 remaining competitors in this heat are each required to lift one up and carry it down a 30-metre course. Each machine weighs around 135 kilos, that's 21 stone, and the hardest part of this challenge is the enormous weight on the chest that the strong men have to bear.
Referee Dougie Edmonds once again making sure everything is ready. As Juliet said, the fastest time over the course wins. Magnus going well. Oh, he just seemed to lose his footing there a little bit. And his dream debut has had its first hiccup in the competition. Phil Martin carrying on. It looks as though he can collect 4 points. Down it goes. And Magnus has picked it up again. He may have forgotten the referee's instructions. Magnus Samuelsson is going to drop it over the line. Phil Martin seems to be a little bit confused. Samuelsson finishes, but it might be a wasted effort.
Well, in fact, competition rules state that the man who carries the machine the furthest without dropping it wins. So, contrary to initial impressions, it's Phil Martin who takes this event.
We can actually clarify the situation now. We've had the official verdict. Phil, you won that competition. Well done.
Well, it's a relief to actually have a win. Although I had to admit I was a little nervous when he picked it up and was running past me, and I was struggling to get it back up. I thought I'd dropped another one to the big Swede.
So congratulations to both of you. We'll look forward to seeing you in the final. Well done.
Now we got to finish 1-2 in the finals.
Yeah.
1-2. 1-2. 1-2. Something like that.
We shall have to wait and see, but what a week we've had. 2 men sidelined through some quite scary injuries, and 2 men whose challenge to become the world's strongest man is really just beginning.
Well, what an unfortunate heat for both Torvi Olofsson and for the Australian mega man Nathan Jones, who'd both trained so hard for this competition. But, as is often the case, their loss is someone else's gain. Phil Martin from America and Magnus Samuelsson from Sweden will now join 8 other strong men for next week's final. It's set to be a spectacular contest, which will show us who really is the strongest man in the world. I do hope you'll join us, but for now, from the Bahamas, it's goodbye.
Man's best friend is virtual reality. Tomorrow's World next on BBC One.